Hi everyone, Mike Leiden here with International Academy of Consciousness. I'm here to introduce Brenda Dunne, who's going to be a speaker along with Robert John at the First International Congress of Conscienciology from May 22nd to the 24th in Evermonte, Portugal. Conscienciology means consciousness science from a post-materialist and multidimensional point of view. And Brenda and Robert are going to be presenting a talk called Consciousness and the Nature of Life. And Brenda, just to give a little bit about your CV, you're the president and treasurer of the International Consciousness Research Laboratories, or ICRL. And
right.
I'm sorry?
That's right.
Okay. And you were the laboratory manager of PEAR, which stands for Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory, from its inception in 1979 until its closing a few years ago in 2007. You also serve as the education officer for the Society for Scientific Exploration, and your research focus has been consciousness-related anomalies, including human-machine interaction and remote perception.
Right.
All of that sounds good?
It sounds just right.
Okay, perfect. So I wanted to talk to you today about your presentation at the Congress, maybe without giving too much away, what question you would hope to answer in terms of like what research question you'd hope to answer or what you hope to bring to the table in terms of consciousness research.
Okay. You know, when we started the PEAR program back in 1979, one couldn't even use the word consciousness in scientific circles, but now it's become quite a hot topic. The problem is that most of the scholars who are studying it are taking a materialistic approach. That is, they are presuming that consciousness is something that is produced by the brain, the physical brain. The research that we did gave strong indications that these effects are non-local. They do not conform to that paradigm. And something else is going on here that is not strictly brain-related, or at least is not brain-generated. It is probably brain-processed, but there's more to it. We are particularly interested in the subjective aspect of consciousness, the stuff that is very hard to measure, feelings, emotions, context, intention, meaning, and so forth. And the studies that we did at PEAR were really looking at the fundamental question of whether consciousness can influence the behavior of random physical systems that are physically unconnected with the human body. And also remote perception, where consciousness seems to be able to acquire information about remote geographical scenes without any recourse to any standard, information or sensory input. The results of these studies made it clear that both of these phenomena were sustained, statistically significant, and that there is very strong evidence that our minds can behave in a non-local fashion, that it can not only interact with the physical environment, but it can actually have a small but measurable influence on that environment, particularly when there's some random component that it's interacting with. And of course, when you stop to think about it for a while, it turns out that just about everything in the physical world boils down to some random process, whether it's the firing of neurons, whether it's weather changes, whether it's the stock market. All of our experiences really are by their nature probabilistic. That is, they're not deterministic. They don't tell us exactly what's going to happen. They tell us what is likely to happen. And it seems that in the research that we did, consciousness, that is the subjective dimension of our minds, can have a slight effect on the inherent probabilities of these processes. So people were able to affect the output of random event generators that were ostensibly binary. That is, they behaved like coin flipping processes where you have a 50-50 chance of a head or a tail, or where it is trying to obtain information, which again, one can guess, but the problem, or rather the challenge there had been to try to find ways to measure the amount of information that's actually acquired in this manner and to determine whether more information has been acquired than one would get from just guessing. Okay? So that's the background. Another component of our program was attempts to try to understand what was going on, to create conceptual models of what might be happening. In the process of doing all of this, we noted a number of factors that we felt were very important and indicative, and which had not really been addressed very well by other researchers. By and large, folks who were studying these anomalous phenomena had tended to approach the question either from the perspective of psychology, in other words, what kind of personalities, what kind of attentional process, what kind of attitudes, et cetera, contributed to these occurrences, or from the point of view of physics, that is, trying to fit these phenomena within the framework of the standard reductionistic models of modern physics. We came to realize that neither of these approaches struck us anyway as adequate. For example, the fact that these effects seem to occur over distance, and indeed even over time, that they can take place before or after the random event generator is turned on, or before or after the target in a remote perception experiment is identified. Now, in physics, there's no way to accommodate phenomena that do not fall off in their accuracy over distance, and certainly cannot function atemporally, that is, outside of time. So there's really no way to deal with these from the perspective of physics that's satisfying. The psychological approach doesn't work either, because we had some fairly good evidence that the processes that drive our usual psychological activities not only don't work, but almost seem to inhibit the occurrence of these events. That is, they seem to work better when one is not trying, when one is not thinking. As somebody once asked us, well, what is it you do when you're doing these experiments? And I could only respond, one doesn't do anything. One has to be. In other words, what's going on here has something to do with resonance, with an emotional connection with the process, with an attribution of meaning. These things don't really get covered in modern psychology. So here we are left with a big question of, well, if it's not a psychological process, and if it's not a physical process, what is it?
Right.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Is a proper vernacular intent, like the effect of intention on living or non-living systems?
Yes, just so. But it's more than intention, it turns out. There's also an emotional connection. We refer to this as resonance. You have to be, shall we say, on the same wavelength with the machine or the other individual involved in the remote perception experiment.
So
in other words, the head part, the intention, is all, as they say in the trade, is necessary but not sufficient.
okay. So the resonance, that it sounds like that's deeper than emotion, because if you wanted to, let's say, resonate with a random number generator, a random number generator doesn't have any emotion, but it has, you could say, physical matter has a certain, well, let's say, quality of energy to it that, let's say, a rock has a certain quality of energy that, let's say, a tree would not have, or a quality of resonance, I guess we could say.
Yeah, one attempts to connect, to be one with the object of one's intention in some fashion. And everybody has their own style of doing that. There are many mystical traditions that talk about letting go of your own identity and just connecting directly with the world around you. That seems to be very close to what we're talking about.
Maybe this is a bad joke. It almost sounds like sales. Like you're selling the random number generator on having it comply with your intention or something. No, I'm making a joke, but no, I mean I think this is really important, this idea of resonance, and so this sounds like something that you've explored pretty thoroughly in your research. Is that right?
Yes, we have. And there's one area that has not been considered too carefully that we find ourselves increasingly drawn to, and this is what we'll be talking about at the Congress, namely the dimension of biology.
Interesting.
Because, biology and most biological processes can be traced back to random activity, whether it's the random recombination of DNA, whether it's the random generation of evolutionary changes. This actually hit me anyway many, many years ago when I was in graduate school. And I heard a lecture that mentioned the fact that I wish I could give you their citation, but it was so long ago and I've never been able to track it down. But it said that in certain times, socio-economic times, for example, like during warfare, where a lot of young men are dying, the normally 50-50 division between male and female births, taking into account, early childhood mortality and yada, 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 ends up with an equal number of males and females. But under these circumstances, it turns out that there are small number or small percentage more male births than female births. And that struck me as quite remarkable. Somehow or other, there may be some connection to the evolutionary process whereby the mind, not necessarily the individual mind, but the collective mind of the species, can express or manifest a desire for survival, for accommodation to environmental changes, by ever so slightly changing the odds on a probabilistic situation. And this was something that, Bob, John, and I talked about for years and years, but it wasn't until we had accumulated our data and studied it and thought about it a lot that we started wondering whether what we might be looking at here was an expression of the fundamental life force, the elan vital, the chi energy, that ineffable something that is at the heart of the universe, that drives life, that expresses life and makes it capable of adjusting to its environment and to if not ensure, but to improve its survival chances. And the more we studied that, and the more we thought about it, and the more we looked at our data, the more persuasive that argument became. And it's something that we've gotten quite excited about. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail. As you said, you don't want to give the talk away.
Right.
But I might, just say one sentence that we had in the abstract of our talk. It reads, "These anomalies comprise a domain where the objective physical world and the subjective experiential world overlap via the activity of consciousness, and they hint at an organizing role for consciousness that connects living systems with the primal source, with a capital S, from which all phenomena emanate." And that's the general thesis. That's where we're going. This is obviously still highly hypothetical. We can't prove it in any profound or quantitative way, but intuitively it feels right, and it's a route that probably would be worth pursuing further by other researchers who are interested in the topic.
Yeah, well, it's funny because so many people that I've spoken to at the Congress already are talking about this same life force, whether they're talking about it in the terms that you said as kind of a source dimension or as a manifestation of energy. There's going to be a lot of talk about that. So, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a great meeting of the minds there.
Well, it'll be wonderful to hear other people's thoughts on this topic. We haven't really done too much exchange with others on this subject, but one that we have had some exchange with are the Ulisse De Corpo and Antonella Benini, who will also be speaking on their work on syntropy.
Yes.
They recently wrote a book on the topic, which we here at ICRL Press published for them. And as the editor of that book, I spent a lot of time delving into their concept of syntropy, which really, if you will, resonated. The idea that information can flow in two directions. We know that logically we put information out into the world and we acquire information from the world. But that information can have an organizing component.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Information from the future can go backward in time and influence the present, just as information from the past can go forward in time. And again, I'm not going to give away their talk either, but I know there's a strong connection between what they've done and what we've been talking about. And I'm sure there will be a number of other people there. So this should be an exciting Congress. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, as am I, for sure. And I look forward to meeting you again there. We met before at the Society for Scientific Exploration in 2005, I want to say. It was a while ago. That was like 10 years ago. It's hard to believe. But
isn't it incredible?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, time flies.
Good to see you again, Michael. And this should be an exciting conference. I feel very honored to be able to talk. Unfortunately, Bob John will not be able to attend. He is not able to, do international travel right now. So he is delegating this presentation to me, and I hope I'll be able to live up to his standards because he's such a superb speaker. But I'm really excited to attend, to meet you and some of our other friends there, and have a chance to see the beautiful countryside, Portugal, while we're there.
Yeah, no, it is a very nice place to vacation, for want of a better term, or to just, have some downtime. But I mean, with regard to the talk, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And Yeah, and it was really great talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Same here, Michael.
All right. Take care, Brenda.
Here.
Mhm.